All right, let's tell our audience about our guest. We've got an amazing, amazing, amazing guest today.
So very cool. It is my honor, of course, to introduce everyone to Mr. Fred Cary. And Fred is a powerhouse entrepreneur who has founded over 10 companies worth in the billions of dollars. In the cutthroat world of entrepreneurship and sales, few have carved a path quite like Fred Cary. Fred's journey from his first startup, Boxlot, which was an early competitor to eBay but failed to take off, to a maestro of one successful startup after another, all the way to his current role as CEO of IdeaPros, a company that helps entrepreneurs turn their ideas into profitable ventures. Fred's story is a masterclass in and about vision and grit. Fred's a big deal, and don't just take my word for it. His weekly show of entrepreneurs have drawn over 8 million viewers, and he has over 500,000 followers on Instagram. And he doesn't even dance. This top 1%
that we know of.
That's true.
Fred, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy and in demand. I'd love to start, as we do often, by asking you to tell us where things started for you. It'd be great if you could give your backstory. And if you don't mind, take us right up to Boxlot, because we have specific questions about that venture.
Okay, I won't do the 3-hour show version of that. I became an entrepreneur because not because I felt I could be brilliant, but because I felt that I didn't fit. I became an entrepreneur because I didn't think anybody would have me and give me the credit that I thought I could bring to any outside organization. So really by force rather than anything else. I started my first company at 24, started another one at 26 after the first one was acquired, and then became an attorney accidentally, truly, for about 10 years before I got into starting Boxlot. But that was in 1998. And I had been living in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale. And when I wanted to get back into that entrepreneurship world, I just felt that Southern California was the place for me to start my entrepreneurial career over again.
That's great. Of course, San Diego, not a bad place to set your roots.
No.
So let's talk about Boxlot then. So from what I understand, it's was an early competitor to eBay. And before we talk about how you reinvented Boxlot into something else and sell it for, just a paltry $125 million, the business nearly failed. And so let's kind of hang out there, talk about the near failure. What was the vision behind Boxlot initially? And how were you able to recognize fairly early on that you needed to pivot and really pivot hard?
Yeah, and pivoting hard, by the way, if you're not prepared to do that with any business, that you should not be an entrepreneur, because that's what's going to be required every time. We're inventing things that don't exist. How the hell are we going to get it right first time every time? It doesn't work that way. But with Boxlot, eBay was just really starting to come out and getting popular, and I saw that. Well, I felt that there was room for another competitor in that field, which turns out there wasn't. But that's very unusual. Usually there is. Uber, Lyft, for one little example, and I thought we're going to do it, but we're going to do it better. We're going to have better products. We're going to have better things. We're going to have better technology, and we're going to appeal to people who normally would go to an auction type environment. And the reason that eBay really took off and we didn't is because those type of people weren't on the internet in 1998, 1999. They were going to real auction houses and doing their work there, And so the $10, $15, $20 item that was what was on eBay is really what propelled them with a whole new audience buying crap really at discount prices, and we couldn't compete with that.
So at some point you realized, and it was pretty early on, because I believe I believe that I read that you sold the business for 125 million after 18 months. Is that 18 months from founding or 18 months from pivoting?
No, that's 18 months from pivoting.
From pivoting.
But
Gotcha.
we've been doing it for about a year before that.
Gotcha. So let's talk about that. You said that experience, that the turning around of Boxlot into a completely different enterprise, turned around and reshaped your philosophy that helped you then ultimately form years later IdeaPros. We're going to get into what IdeaPros does, which I think is fascinating. But can you first share with our audience what did you learn? What was it that you took away from this experience?
Yeah, and by the way, it's IdeaPros. But you have to learn when things aren't working. You know, as founders, we go way too long doing something. It doesn't mean that where you are and what you're trying to achieve is not going to work. It's just what you're trying to do in that space is not going to work, and you have to try to find something else. And that's why the word pivot is used so often when you're talking about entrepreneurship and when you're launching new companies. So for us, we just saw that we just couldn't do it, but we also saw that everybody in the world was trying to get into that space. And so you kind of reflect sometimes and figure out what's the real problem here. What's the underlying component of everything that's going on in this auction space, and can we do something to make it better? And as it turned out, the technology wasn't there. You know, it was really hard. You'd place a bid, then you have to come back a half an hour later, see if somebody outbid you. Then you couldn't do incremental bidding. And so the infrastructure to support this burgeoning sector of the economy was not there. And so I said, let's build the infrastructure. And we switched from trying to sell trinkets, including a $2 million stamp, by the way. We went to looking at the infrastructure and looking at what was really needed. And so we turned into a technology company. We started doing incremental bidding. We created bid or buy. We created reverse bidding. We literally the entire ecosystem of what all the auction platforms became depended on were things that we created. And that's why we quickly became a company that people wanted, or other companies wanted to do something with, because we were building the infrastructure to make it better, regardless of who was going to win.
I love that. I love that. It's like you were making, not so much doubling down, but you definitely pivoted, but you also made yourself invaluable in that space. It sounds like you took the learnings that you had from this auction universe and kind of took a step back and said, okay, well, we can't compete head to head. So let's really try to figure out how to make this whole thing better. And that paid off for you.
Yeah. Our horse was not going to win the race, so why not build the racetrack?
There's a t-shirt right there.
Yep.
Yep. T-shirt. So let's